Mark Carney won't say about his budget is the real story. Mark Carney's out here telling Canadians to brace for sacrifices like we're about to enter some economic Hunger Games. But when reporters actually ask him what those sacrifices are, dramatic pause. Suddenly he's got more secrets than your friend who says they're fine, but clearly isn't. Stick around, because what Carney almost let slip on Thursday is wild. What's up, Canada Bulletin family? If you've been following Canadian politics this week, you know Prime Minister Mark Carney gave a primetime speech Wednesday night that had more vague warnings than a horror movie trailer. Sacrifices are coming. Tough choices ahead. We'll have to move more slowly on certain aspects. Cool. But which aspects, Mark? But first, let's rewind 24 hours. So, Wednesday evening, Carney delivers this big pre-budget address to university students in Ottawa. And look, I get it. He's trying to prepare Canadians for the November 4th budget that's apparently going to be generational. That's political speak for expensive and potentially controversial, by the way. Here's what he actually said. Canada needs to pivot away from the U.S. after Trump's tariff tantrums, double our non-U.S. exports over the next decade, and make unprecedented investments. Sounds ambitious. But then, he drops the S word. Sacrifices. He literally said, and I quote, "We won't transform our economy easily or in a few months. It will take some sacrifices and some time." And then he added this delightful nugget. We'll have to do less of some of the things we want to do, so we can do more of what we must do. Okay, that's the vaguest thing I've heard since my GPS told me to continue on the current route while I was clearly lost. Which things, Mark? What are we cutting? Is it programs? Is it spending? Is it free Tim Hortons for MPs? The people need to know. And that's where Thursday gets interesting. Fast forward to Thursday morning. Carney standing next to Ontario Premier Doug Ford at a joint press conference. They're announcing some nuclear reactor investment, very exciting, and a reporter asks the million-dollar question. Prime Minister, you keep mentioning sacrifices. Can you be specific about what those are? And here's where it gets spicy, folks. Carney starts to answer. He begins explaining that the government will have to move more slowly on certain aspects. And you can see it. He's about to give us actual details when suddenly his brain goes, mimics alarm sound, abort. Budget spoilers ahead. He literally catches himself mid-sentence and says, "Why don't I not scoop the budget?" Asterisk scoop the budget like it's some exclusive entertainment news story. Like he almost told us who got eliminated on The Bachelor before the finale aired. But here's the thing. That moment of hesitation, that almost reveal, it tells us everything about what's happening behind the scenes. Because when politicians catch themselves from saying something, what they were about to say is usually the truth they don't want you to hear yet. So what was he about to reveal? Let's do some political detective work. Based on what Carney has said, we can piece together the puzzle. He mentioned the government will maintain support to Canadians, particularly those who are most vulnerable, specifically name-checking health transfers, childcare, dental care, and a national school food program. Those programs are safe, which means everything else is on the chopping block. When he said, we won't be able to move as quickly as we otherwise would, and there are certain demands or desires to expand in different areas. He's talking about new programs that were promised but might get delayed or downsized. Think climate initiatives, infrastructure projects, maybe some of those splashy announcements that sound great but don't help people pay their grocery bills right now. And here's the kicker. Economists at Desjardins just dropped a report estimating the federal deficit could climb past $70 billion this year. That would make it the largest deficit in 30 years outside of recession and pandemic years. So when Carney talks about cutting waste and doing more with less, he's not talking about trimming the fat. He's talking about strategic amputation. Pierre Poilievre wants the deficit capped at $42 billion. Economists think it'll be $70 billion plus. Carney's talking about sacrifices. You do the math. But wait, there's a political calculation here that makes this even more interesting. Because here's what makes this whole situation absolutely bonkers. Carney's running a minority government. The Liberals are 3 votes short of being able to pass anything on their own. That means they need either the NDP, the Bloc Québécois, or the Conservatives to support this budget, or at least not vote against it. And a budget vote is a confidence vote. If it fails, we're back to the polls, folks. Another election, which nobody wants, especially not Carney, who just won an election a few months ago. So he's out here playing 4D political chess. He needs to prepare Canadians for cuts without being so specific that opposition parties use his own words against him. He needs to sound fiscally responsible without alienating voters who were promised programs. He needs to appear transparent while being strategically vague. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre already said Carney offered a normal buffet of broken promises in his speech. The NDP wants commitments on housing and pharmacare. The Bloc has their own demands. And Carney's over here like, I'll tell you on November 4th, pinky promise. The Liberal House leader literally said this week he's starting to worry about getting enough support to pass the budget. That's like your pilot saying they're slightly concerned about landing the plane. Not comforting, sir. So what does this all mean for you? Here's the bottom line that Carney doesn't want to say out loud yet. The real story isn't what programs might get cut or delayed. The real story is that Canada is about to undergo a massive economic restructuring, pivoting away from U.S. dependence, ramping up defense spending, investing in infrastructure, and somebody's got to pay for it. When Carney talks about generational investments, he means your generation is going to see the bill. When he says sacrifices, he means belt tightening now for potential prosperity later. When he almost revealed what those sacrifices would be standing next to Doug Ford, he was probably about to mention specific spending areas. Maybe slower infrastructure rollouts, delayed climate programs, or smaller increases in existing supports than people expected. And here's the truly fascinating part. He wants to tell you. You could see in that moment Thursday. He was ready to be transparent, to explain the trade-offs, but the political calculation won out. Better to control the message in a carefully crafted budget document than have a throwaway line at a press conference become the headline. But you know what? That moment of almost honesty might be more revealing than anything he'll say